Good evening all. Welcome back to the class. So today's class will be dealing with this case law, which is Estate Office Huda and others versus Nirmala Devi. Okay? Estate Office Huda and others versus Nirmala Devi. This case deals with SRA, an important principle of SRA, that is Specific Relief Act. Fine. So we'll be dealing with the important principle of Specific Relief Act. The Supreme Court in this case has tried to give the essentials for the same, what should be the conditions, how will you go ahead and analyze that relief which has been talked about under SRA and which is very relevant for our today's case. Let the others join and then we'll start with the facts and everything. Till then, let's just revise the yesterday's judgment. So what was the name for the yesterday's judgment? And how is that judgment relevant for you? What is the relevancy for the yesterday's judgment? Proviso is not always the exception. ये चीज तो हमारे दूसरे केस में कही गई थी. But yes, proviso is an independent ticket. But what was stated in ancient pains? So for that you will say, let's just others talk and then I'll tell. Okay, fine. Simply it was stated the proviso should not be read with other laws. It is one of the substantive right. It is one of the independent provision in itself. Fine. And nobody can be restricted. And what is for the relevancy is the definition of victim. So how has the Supreme Court in the yesterday's case interpreted the definition of victim? Has the wider interpretation to the definition was taken into hand or a very narrow interpretation to it? Fine. Okay, Sweta. Very good. The victim not in all scenarios will include complainant and informant. We have a case law for that. Okay, wide interpretation was taken. So how have you stated so? The wider interpretation of the definition of victim was taken into hand because of one simple reason. Supreme Court had not restricted the definition of victim to the one who has actually suffered any loss or injury, but had given a very wide interpretation by taking into a future circumstances into hand. Anyone who can become a victim or who can come under the definition of victim is somebody who not only who had actually suffered but who might suffer also. Okay? That is most important thing. Victim includes any person who might suffer, who had not actually suffered such loss or injury due to the act of the accused. Are we clear now? So wider interpretation in this sense. Informant and complainant are yet cannot be said that informant is a victim, but in majority of the scenarios he is a victim. But this cannot be a very strict jacket formula which is required to be followed. Yes, anticipation of injury can be one of the criteria to include a person into the definition of victim. Fine, good enough. Now let's just start with today's case law. The bench before us is Justice J.B. Pardiwala and Justice R. Madhavan. Moving ahead with the facts, the case involved the allotment of alternative plots to the respondent or oustee. What is the meaning of oustee? Oustee जिसको निकाल दिया, जिसको property से throw out कर दिया, जिसकी property capture कर दियो. Is right to property a fundamental right? Is right to property a fundamental right? And if yes, under which article? Good. It is not a fundamental right. So what it is? It's a constitutional right. Very good. It's a constitutional right. So under which article? It's a constitutional right. 308. Very good. Acha. Just clear my doubt. Is right to property a constitutional right or a statutory right? What is a better option for you? Very good. Yes. Is the right to property a constitutional right or a statutory right? If there is a question before you that is it a fundamental right, constitutional right, statutory right, or both statutory and constitutional right, or all of the above for that matter. So what will you choose? Good. It's a constitutional right, not a statutory right. It is the constitution which is providing that right, though it is one of the statutes. What is constitution? It is a statute, but still it will be considered as a constitutional right than going ahead with the general option that is a statutory right. Very good. So over here, you know that right to property is a constitutional right, not a fundamental right, and the government has a right to take the property from you, right? And you might have seen also जब हाईवे बनते ज्यादा तो जनरली यही होता है जब हाईवे बनते हैं और जो भी हाईवे की जगह में रोड्स होती है हाउस होते हैं उनको तोड़ दिया जाता है right just to extend the make a very wide highway over there in that scenario what is taken into hand जो भी पॉलिसीज होती है अकॉर्डिंगली जो भी लैंड ओनर्स होते हैं उनको या तो कॉम्पनसेशन मिल जाता है राइट इधर द कॉम्पनसेशन इज गिवन कि भाई ये लो कॉम्पनसेशन दी अमाउंट जितना आपका अमाउंट है उसका एक्स करके आपको कॉम्पनसेशन दे दिया जाएगा ऑफ द प्रॉपर्टी और दे आर अलॉटेड अ डिफरेंट हाउस और अ डिफरेंट शॉप अंडरस्टूड now that is somewhat is dealt under our particular case. The case involved allotment of an alternative plots to the respondent or the oustee whose land were acquired by the appellant for the development of residential sector under the हुडा's 1992 पॉलिसी. ठीक है हुडा कहां पर है गुड़गांव में ना तो हुडा के 1992 पॉलिसी के अकॉर्डिंगली few lands were taken up by the government for the development of residential sectors. Few sectors were to be made. Accordingly, they stated that under this policy there is no requirement, there is no such policy of giving compensation, but rather allotment of the alternative plots. The respondent were entitled to rehabilitation by way of alternative plots at the 1992 rates. जो भी rates उस वक्त चल रहे थे, accordingly they were supposed to have the alternative plot. जैसे for example, if I have a property which is of around 1 lakh, for that matter 1992 की बात है ना, तो 1 lakh, तो जो 1992 में प्राइस चल रहा था 1 lakh accordingly मुझे कोई और लैंड मिल जाएगा. अभी जो पॉलिसी जिसकी हुडा पॉलिसी जो है वो हुडा की 2016 पॉलिसी आ चुकी है. 1992 की पॉलिसी खत्म हो गई है. अब 2016 में पॉलिसी आ गई तो कौन से रेट्स लगने चाहिए क्या चीजें होनी चाहिए कुछ उससे रिलेटेड इशू है. अभी बस आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू 2026 पॉलिसी इज करंट पॉलिसी. अभी डोंट थिंक अबाउट इट, जस्ट गो अहेड विद दिस फैक्ट इटसेल्फ. ऑल्टरनेटिव प्लॉट मिलना रिस्पोंडेंट को अंडर दी हुडा's 1992 पॉलिसी and over there it is provided the respondents over there who are the outstees are to comply with the procedural requirement, namely submitting an application in the prescribed format and depositing 10% of the earnest money as a condition for seeking a mandatory injunction. Over here, there was a clause under this policy whereby it is the responsibility of the outstee, whosoever has been removed from the property, to file an application for the same and thereby pay 10% of the earnest amount. जितना भी प्रॉपर्टी का अमाउंट है वो 10% उनको पे करना है एंड अकॉर्डिंगली उनको तब लैंड आप मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन लगा सकते हो. व्हाट इज मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन? व्हाट इज मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन? हैज इट बीन डिफाइंड एनीवेयर अंडर एनी ऑफ द लॉ? कंपल्सरी SRA, हाँ SRA के अंदर है करेक्ट. It is under specific relief act where it has been defined. And what is the meaning of mandatory injunction? अच्छा mandatory is compulsory. नहीं, no Anmol, that is not. We don't go ahead with the literal meaning of the word itself. Imposing a condition, courts direct someone to do it. Very good, Khushi. Whereby courts direct somebody to follow their duty. Generally, मैंने बहुत पहले भी एक किसी क्लास में बताई थी बात आपको. There are majorly three kinds of injunctions: temporary injunction, perpetual injunction, and mandatory injunction. अब don't go ahead with permanent injunction. ये सब perpetual and permanent injunctions are the same kind. So if we follow the main general three kinds of injunctions, that is temporary, perpetual or permanent, and mandatory injunction, we by the word injunction we think to stop somebody. Injunction क्या होता है? To stop somebody to perform any act, right? But mandatory injunction under section 39 of the Specific Relief Act simply talks about and impose a duty upon the person who has an obligation to perform an act. यहां पर जो इंजंक्शन लग रहा है ना, इंजंक्शन लग रहा है ना काम करने के ऊपर. इंजंक्शन इस पे नहीं लग रहा है कि ना काम करो. Am I making sense? इंजंक्शन किसी को रोकने के लिए लग रहा है, उसको पुश करने के लिए लग रहा है, फोर्स करने के लिए लग रहा है कि अपना जो ड्यूटी है उसको निभाओ जाके. Are we clear? Over here, the simple thing is, under the Huda's policy, the problem is if you want the government to give you an alternative plot, you are required, the oustees are required over here to file an application for the same. They are required to submit an application plus 10% of the earnest money. What is the earnest money? Security amount. They are required to submit 10% of the security amount and your application for the same. And on that basis itself, the government will judge कि भाई कितना क्या plot मिलना चाहिए, and accordingly they'll give you the plots. Are we clear now? Very, very, because क्योंकि इसका discussion आगे होगा, and I'll be asking questions regarding that. So remember, it is kind of stating कि respondent अगर ये काम करेगा तो हम उसको alternative plot देंगे. Are we clear? Mandatory injunction तभी लग सकता है ना. Let's just understand mandatory injunction in more clearer words. Section 39 talks about mandatory injunction, which says when to prevent the breach of an obligation, it is necessary to compel the performance of a certain act which the court is capable of enforcing. Over here, if some authority or some person has an obligation to do something and now he is omitting from doing the same, the person who is a kind of suffering because of the person who is omitting to do it can go to the court and claim mandatory injunction, thereby requesting the court to please compel this person to do their duty. Are we clear? And that obligation should be the one which the court in its own mind, in its own jurisdiction has a right to enforce it. अगर कोई ऐसी ड्यूटी है जो कि कोर्ट एनफोर्स नहीं करा सकता, कोर्ट हैज नो पावर टू गो अहेड एंड एनफोर्स इट. Even if the party is claiming mandatory injunction, court will not enforce it. Over it is stated, performance of certain acts which the court is capable of enforcing. Very, very important. Many a time student understand कि हाँ there is a compulsion which is to be made on the other party कि भाई काम करो अपना, क्यों नहीं कर रहे हो, right? That is what mandatory injunction is. They forget to analyze the terms over here. That is, it is not talking about all the acts. It is giving a discretionary power on the shoulders of the court. So if you feel like you can go ahead and enforce it, go ahead and enforce those acts. Not all acts can be enforced by the court. You also understand now, if there are any moral duties, if there are ethical issues, court will not say कि नहीं नहीं तो morally correct नहीं है, आपको नहीं करना है. This is morally correct, go and do it. That is not the jurisdiction of the court to decide upon. Morals are associated with the individuals. They are not associated with the society at large. Understood? Very important. So, injunction की जो definition है किसी को रोकना, वो temporary और perpetual में लगती है. But in cases of mandatory injunction, which is nowhere dealt, it is only Specific Relief Act under section 639, which talks about mandatory injunction, whereby the court has the discretionary power to compel the person to do the obligation, to do the act which he is obligated under the law to do it. Are we clear with the meaning of mandatory injunction? अगर यही समझ में नहीं आएगा ना तो पूरा केस ही इस पर निर्भर कर रहा है, तो यही समझ में नहीं आएगा तो आगे कुछ समझ में नहीं आएगा. Are we clear with the meaning of mandatory injunction for those who have no idea about it? फाइन, ठीक है, अब आगे बढ़ते हैं। अब समझ में आया? यहाँ पर हुडा पॉलिसी के अंदर अगर मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन लगाना है, श्योर, मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन इज समथिंग वेयर बाय द पर्सन इज मेड टू डू एन एक्ट, जो कि उसका ऑब्लिगेशन है अंडर लॉ टू डू इट, ही इज omitting to it. So for example, I am obligated under law to respect the fundamental rights of the other individual, but मैं omit कर रही हूँ, मुझे पता है चाइल्ड लेबर नहीं रखना है, मैं चाइल्ड लेबर रख रही हूँ। इन दैट केस कोर्ट मेरे पर ऑब्लिगेशन लगा सकती है, प्लीज डू योर ऑब्लिगेशंस, जो लॉ ने आपको ऑब्लिगेशंस दिए, कोई ड्यूटीज दी, उनको निभाओ जाकर। दैट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन। नाउ ओवर हियर इन आवर केस, the respondents have the right only and only to go ahead with the mandatory injunction. यहाँ पर क्या दिया, अगर आपको मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन सीक करना है तो प्लीज आप एप्लीकेशन फाइल करो। अगर आप अपने प्रॉपर्टी की एप्लीकेशन फाइल करते हो, 10% ऑफ योर अर्नेस्ट अमाउंट दे देते हो, तो यहाँ पर एक ऑब्लिगेशन हो जाएगी ऑन द पार्ट ऑफ द अथॉरिटी टू गिव यू एन ऑल्टरनेटिव प्लॉट। दैट इज व्हाट हुडा's policy 1992 is speaking about. Are we clear? Mandamus जो होता है, it is only and only applicable upon the public authority, ठीक है, to do their public duties. Whereas mandatory injunctions are not associated with public authorities, they are not associated with public duties. All the duties by every individual. Understood? So never get confused between mandatory injunction and mandamus. Mandamus एक रिट जुरिस्डिक्शन के अंदर B32 to 26 के अंदर ही पास हो सकता है। सिविल केसेस में मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शंस पास हो सकते हैं। टोटली डिफरेंट स्फीयर। Moving ahead. The appellant Huda was aggrieved by the High Court's decision of granting blanket reliefs without considering the procedural defaults of plaintiff or the respondents. Over here, यहाँ पर हाई कोर्ट ने कहा नहीं नहीं बिल्कुल, Huda, you are doing wrong. Give alternative clause to everyone. Huda is aggrieved by this order of the High Court, stating कि High Court ने जो ये blanket relief दे दी सबको, they are overlooking the procedural default. What is the procedural default over here? Of not filing or submitting the application and the earnest amount. That is the default which the respondents have done. High Court has overlooked upon it and went ahead and made and passed an mandatory injunction on the appellants to go ahead and give the alternative plots without evaluating their individual eligibility under the policy. And because of this, Huda is before the Supreme Court. Are we clear? So Huda is before the Supreme Court. Huda being the appellant is before the Supreme Court, stating कि High Court ने जो blanket relief pass की है without considering whether the condition under the policy has been fulfilled, whether they are even eligible to get the alternative plots or not, at what range, at what price, and you have simply passed a blanket relief, is a procedural default which have been taken into consideration. Are we clear? Now, the major and important issue which is before the Supreme Court is whether the relief of mandatory injunction is available to respondents. According to High Court, it is available, and that is why they passed a mandatory injunction against the appellants. So the relief is available. Now the Supreme Court has to deal with it. Now, there is one thing, the judgment talks about two things. Firstly, they will be dealing about the relief of mandatory injunction, but prior to that, the counsel for the respondents have cited few cases. So they have cited one or two cases over there. Now those cases are not so important, so I'll not be dealing with that. But the Supreme Court over here has laid down few tests for ratio decidendi. What is ratio decidendi or ratio decidendi, whichever way you pronounce it? What is the meaning of ratio decidendi? Good. Reason of the decision. Very good. So over here, court, while analyzing the judgments which were cited by the respondents, are talking about whether this judgment is itself applicable in our present case or not. So they have laid down few tests. These are the tests which are available. These are not new tests which have been made. So they are referring to 3 tests. And I wrote it over here because of the exam perspective. कि हो सकता है एग्जाम में ऐसा पूछा जाए इसलिए. I haven't dealt this part of the judgment in depth, but I've talked about the different kinds of tests over here. So there are 3 tests. Ratio descendi. Wambach's test, that is inversion test, which is based on the assumption that the ratio descendi is the general rule, without which a case must have been decided otherwise. Correctly stated. According to inversion test or Wambach's rule test, it is a general rule. अगर रेशियो नहीं होता, किसी का रीजन नहीं होता, तो केस अदरवाइज डिसाइडेड हो जाता. हाइपोथेसिस, इसको कहते हैं हाइपोथेसिस. जब मैं आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछती हूँ विदाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ एनीथिंग, मैं आपसे सिंपली पूछती हूँ यहाँ पर मैंडेटरी इंजेक्शन लगेगा कि नहीं, एंड यू गिव योर ओन हाइपोथेसिस. यू हैव नो रीजन, यस नो पे आंसर देते हो ना आप लोग, यस नो अकॉर्डिंग टू मी दिस दैट, बट यू हैव नो रीजन, यू हैव नो बैकिंग फॉर द सेम. दिस इज not a ratio descendi, but if you give the reasons for the same, तो वो आपका डिसीजन जो होगा शायद वो चेंज हो सकता है. जो अभी आप यस कह रहे हो माइट बी पॉसिबल, अगर आप रीजंस देते, प्रॉपर एनालिसिस करते, तो योर डिसीजन माइट हैव बीन चेंज. दिस इज इन्वर्जन टेस्ट. Halsbury test also states ratio descendi as a general rule, that part alone of a decision by a court of law is binding upon courts of coordinate jurisdiction and inferior courts, which consists of the enunciation of the reason or principle upon which the question before the court has really been determined. So, the part of the decision which is binding upon the other courts is the part which is the ratio descendi. It is the enunciation of the reasons or principles upon which the question has been determined. That is according to Halsbury. This underlying principle, which forms the only authoritative element of the precedent, is often termed as ratio descendi. Clearly stated, ratio descendi is nothing but that part of the judgment which is an authoritative element of the case. Moving ahead with Goodhart's test, it states ratio of a case must be found in the reasons for the decision, and there is no necessary connection between the ratio and the reasons. Very मतलब different kind of interpretation they have stated. अगर आपको ratio descendi पता करना है, go ahead with the reasons. The reasons of the decision is the ratio of the case. But having said so, they have stated there is not always necessary that there should be a connection between the decision and the reason. The reason might be something, but the decision might be something else. That can also be the scenario. So, according to these three tests were applied by the Supreme Court on the cases which were cited by the respondent, and thereby stated, if we look into the ratio of the cases referred by the respondent, it should not be read as laying down an absolute proposition of law. So, those cases which have been referred are not absolute proposition of law. The reasons given it might be the situation. The facts are the same. Similar facts are there. Huda policy, they are talking about the Huda policy, the alternative plots. But are the facts important? And because the facts are similar, can we apply the facts of one case to the other? No. The ratio of the one case cannot be applied to the other because of the simple reason the facts are same. We need to determine and understand what is the reasoning. Is the reasoning applicable in our facts, in our situation? If yes, then it is correct. If it is not, then it is not an absolute proposition of law. Are we clear? So please remember these three important tests for ratio descendi. What is individual test? कोई भी connected नहीं है, कोई भी ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. खुद ने सबने अपना अपना एक individual opinion दिया. Accordingly, please remember. Moving ahead with the issue. Dealing with maintainability of the suit under section 39 SRA, after perusal of the provision, court stated. Let's just see the provision before going ahead with the opinion of the court. So, when to prevent a breach of an obligation. What is prevented by the court? What is the duty upon the shoulders of the court? To prevent the breach of an obligation. there is an obligation upon the person, and the court wants not a breach on it, and thereby wants to protect the rights of the other party, and thereby is compelling the other party कि please don't create a breach of it, please उसको omission मत करो, ठीक है? So breach of an obligation which is necessary to compel the it is necessary to compel the performance of the certain acts. Now let's just understand what the Supreme Court is analyzing through this provision. After perusal of the provision, court stated obligation, the breach of obligations. Obligation means any duty enforceable by law. SRA also defines obligation. So according to SRA, obligation is something, any duty which is enforceable by law, and therefore excludes all imperfect obligations. Very, very important statement, such as moral, social, and religious duties, as the performance of those duties cannot be enforced by law. So you cannot go ahead and oblige, or you cannot compel somebody ki nahi, you need to go and visit temples every day. You need to do certain puja every day. No, because that is not the court's jurisdiction to be dealt upon, to be talked upon, to be interfered upon. Rather, any duty which is enforceable by law, that is what the provisions are provided. If there is a statutory law which has been talked upon and given that duty upon the shoulder of an individual or an authority, it becomes a duty enforceable by courts. Thereby, the plaintiff in a suit instituted by him under Section 39 is obliged to satisfy the court with appropriate pleadings and cogent evidences. Matlab, what is the meaning of cogent evidences? What is the meaning? Important evidences, necessary important evidences, जो कि reliable हो, that the defendant is committing breach of a particular obligation. So now, who should have an obligation, who should have a burden of proof to prove the court कि नहीं, there is an obligation upon on the shoulder of the other party? It is upon the plaintiff. Defendant नहीं कहेगा कि नहीं मेरा कोई obligation नहीं. Plaintiff wants to claim that relief, and that is why the burden of proving that obligation which is enforceable law is upon the shoulders of the plaintiff itself. Huda should prove, nahi, Huda will not prove. It is the respondent who is going to be proving it. ठीक है? That is the plaintiff who is claiming the relief. No. Understood? Whosoever is claiming mandatory injunction, he is only under the obligation to prove that there is a breach of an obligation by the other person. Are we clear? एक आपका प्रिंसिपल भी तो है, आप अगर जा रहे हो कोर्ट से कोई रिलीफ मांगे तो आपके ऊपर ही बर्डन ऑफ प्रूफ आएगा, वरना जजमेंट आपके फेवर में नहीं होगा. फाइन. Thereby, the plaintiff in a suit instituted by him is obliged to satisfy the court with appropriate pleadings and cogent evidences that the defendant is committing breach of a particular obligation. No, it is the plaintiff. Plaintiff कौन है? तो appellant है यहाँ पर. Plaintiff किसने सूट फाइल किया था? Respondent ने सूट फाइल किया था ना. The individual oustees जिनको निकाल फेंका गया वही तो सूट फाइल कर रहे हैं कि मुझे alternative plot नहीं मिल रहा है. I want to get my alternative plot. Are we clear? हाई कोर्ट ने तो रिलीफ उसके अगेंस्ट पास कर दी थी, appellant के अगेंस्ट, हुडा के अगेंस्ट, स्टेटिंग के सबको प्लॉट्स दो. अंडरस्टूड? So it is the outstee जिनको निकाल दिया गया था अपने प्लॉट से, they should go ahead and ask for the relief of mandatory injunction, and they have the obligation to prove that there is a breach of the obligation. Fine, I will. ठीक है? Remember, which is binding on him, and there are certain acts which are capable of being enforced by the court in view of the terms of the policy of allotment of plot. So it is upon the person who is claiming the mandatory injunction, that is in our case the outstees, the respondent over here, who were the initial plaintiffs who had claimed the relief, are under the burden of proving that there is a breach of the obligation which is provided under law or by any of the policies. Mandatory injunction. Now, very important paragraphs will be coming. Mandatory injunction is discretionary. Very important. Is it? I have already told you. It is a discretionary power upon the shoulders of the court. No, it is the it is over here. The oustees are the one who are claiming. हुडा क्यों जाएगा? Just tell me. हुडा ने प्लॉट नहीं दिए, कभी गवर्नमेंट जाती है क्या कि मैंने प्लॉट नहीं दिए हैं क्योंकि इन्होंने एप्लीकेशन नहीं फाइल की? ऑब्वियसली अग्रीव कौन होगा? जिसको प्लॉट्स नहीं मिले हैं वो जाएगा ना कि भाई देखिए हुडा ने मुझे प्लॉट्स नहीं दिए। वो अपना फॉल्ट तो ना बताएगा कि मैंने पॉलिसी को ही नहीं फुलफिल किया, देयर वाज अ कंडीशन आई हैव नॉट फुलफिल्ड। So please remember the respondents are the plaintiffs in that scenario and the appellant, that is Huda, is your defendant. ठीक है? Very simple. बिल्कुल सिंपल है, थोड़ा एनालाइज करा करो सब लोग. Going ahead. Mandatory injunction is discretionary. Correct. Mandatory injunction is discretionary. Granting is a matter of judicial discretion of the court, and it can be granted only in case which falls strictly within the four corners of the provision. The two elements which are governed by the mandatory injunctions are the necessity to prevent breach of the obligation by the intervention of the court. First is whether there is a breach of an obligation which requires the intervention of the court. If that is proved, tab to theek hai. Second, that such act should be of a nature capable of enforcement by the court. The second most important thing, even if there is a breach of obligation, it itself will not give the power upon the court to go ahead and enforce that. Rather, the second thing which is required to be seen by the courts while going ahead and using the discretionary power is whether that obligation is the one which can be enforced by the law or not. Because we have already talked about the obligations can be social, moral, religious obligations. Not all obligations are legal obligations, right? So these are the two elements, and yet another ingredient is also available, which is crucial in the matter of granting. That is, should be amenable for exercise of judicial discretion. Matlab, other than these two things, the third most important is the obligation is rather subjected to the judicial discretion or not, which is somehow related to the second part itself. Okay? Amenable matlab subject to. Is the obligation subject to the judicial discretion or not? That is something else which is required to be seen. A relief which is not amenable for exercise of judicial discretion of the court cannot be granted by way of mandatory injunction. Correctly stated. The obligations which are not legal, they are not subject to the court's jurisdiction. Right? Similarly, taking up that in hand, the Supreme Court had laid down two elements for the same. Now, this case becomes very important. Why? Because Supreme Court has laid down the conditions for granting a mandatory injunction. We'll talk about the facts of the case as well, but the Supreme Court had tried to explain in-depth mandatory injunction. So the conditions for granting a mandatory injunction, see, I'll tell you, there are very, very less cases regarding mandatory injunction. And that is why this case becomes very important. Because in depth, the Supreme Court is dealing with the issue, with the essentials, with the conditions of mandatory injunction. Okay? So in case anywhere specific relief act से कोई क्वेश्चन आएगा, higher chances है इस केस के आने के. Fine? क्योंकि mandatory injunction बच्चों को नहीं पता होता, और जब पता चल जाता है तो फिर उनको एनालाइज करना नहीं आता, कंडीशंस नहीं पता होती, एलिमेंट्स नहीं पता होते. दैट इज व्हाई प्लीज रिमेंबर ईच एंड एवरीथिंग व्हिच हैज बीन स्टेटेड ओवर हियर. नाउ डीलिंग विद द कंडीशंस, फर्स्ट देयर मस्ट बी अ क्लियर ऑब्लिगेशन ऑन द पार्ट ऑफ द डिफेंडेंट. फर्स्ट रिक्वायरमेंट इज ऑब्लिगेशन. द अबव टू वर द एलिमेंट्स, these are the things which should be there. Though you might analyze it is the condition because I have explained you in such a way, but these are in-depth conditions. First is the obligation which should be on the part of the defendant, not the plaintiff. Plaintiff is the one who is claiming that relief. Second, the breach of that obligation. Very important. It might have occurred or reasonably apprehended to occur. Very important. जरूरी नहीं है कि हर सिनेरियो में जहां पर breach of obligation हो चुका हो, that is, it has become a past act, then only mandatory injunction can be claimed as a relief. No. If there is a mere apprehension that a breach of an obligation might happen in future, that also becomes a ground for claiming the mandatory injunction. Are we clear? So first is an obligation, second is a breach, whether in the past or in the coming future. It must be necessary to compel the performance so as to prevent or rectify the breach. So either to prevent a future breach, or if there is a past breach, to rectify the breach, what is required is the compelling of that performance. Fourth, the court must be able to enforce the performance. Very important. That act which is required to be compelled should be the one which can be enforced by the court. Court has the power to enforce it. Fourth, the balance of convenience must be in favor of the party seeking the injunction. What is balance of convenience? What is the meaning of balance of convenience? The above two conditions were not there. They were regarding mandatory injunctions only. Okay, Sajjan? The mere meaning of balance of convenience is if there is an injury and if the court will not go ahead and protect that person's right, then जो injury होगी ना वो बहुत ज़्यादा high level, grave injury will be caused to the person who is suffering right now. If the court will not intervene and protect that right, that is the meaning of balance of convenience. The court has to determine कि अगर मैं यहाँ पर रिलीफ दूंगा तो क्या होगा, रिलीफ नहीं दिया तो क्या होगा. अगर मैंने रिलीफ नहीं दिया थोड़ा बहुत लॉस होगा, चलो कोई बात नहीं, पर अगर बहुत ज्यादा लॉस हो जाएगा तो बैलेंस ऑफ कन्वीनियंस देखना पड़ेगा कोर्ट को. फाइन. There are three sub principles which are dealt under balance of convenience. Now moving it. So over here, balance of convenience must be in favor of plaintiff. Party seeking the injunction. So if the balance of convenience over here, whereby if the relief is not given of the mandatory injunction, the plaintiff might suffer a very grave injury. In that scenario, the court is bound to go ahead and give the your injunction. And the last, the injury or damage caused by the breach must be irreparable or not adequately compensable in monetary terms. This is also a part of balance of convenience, whereby any grave injury will be suffered. It cannot be compensated or it cannot be recovered by any other means. Court cannot state, I will not be granting the mandatory injunction, though I have the power to grant it. Though this obligation is the one which can be enforceable by law, but I will not be granted. And for that scenario, go ahead and take 5,000 rupees of compensation. Now, is plot over here be compared to 5,000 rupees of compensation? No. And can what loss which the party has suffered, 20 years of loss हो गया मान लेते हैं पेंडिंग सूट की वजह से, मेंटल ट्रॉमा अलग हुआ, फिजिकल लॉस अलग हुआ, और जो आपका जो क्लेम है वो तो लॉस हुए, can that all be compensated through money amount? No, it cannot be. So over here, the balance of convenience should be taken into considered while going ahead and using this discretionary power by the court. Are we clear? So these are the 6 conditions which are applicable. First, an obligation. That obligation is the one which is already occurred or might occur. That obligation is the one which can be enforceable by the court, and the court should compel the performance for the same. And lastly, while going ahead and judging the discretionary power of the court, 2 things have to be seen. The balance of convenience should be in the favor of the person claiming it, and secondly, irreparable loss or any kind of non-compensable monetary loss will be occurred if this relief will not be given to the plaintiff. ठीक है, मैं इससे ज्यादा सिंपल भाषा में नहीं समझा सकती थी. Moving ahead, the court, after considering the precedents, now let's just consider the precedent before going ahead with the opinion. So in 1986, State of UP versus Srimati Pista Devi and others, court directed that where land is acquired in urban areas for development, then the authority should provide a house or shop site of reasonable size on reasonable terms of each to each. ठीक है, यहाँ पर क्या बात की गई, अगर आप लैंड एक्वायर करो, प्रोवाइड द लैंड ऑफ द रीजनेबल साइज रीजनेबल टर्म्स के ऊपर. क्लियर? लैंड फॉर लैंड की बात की गई है इन 1986 के जजमेंट में. गोइंग अहेड, In MP versus Narmada Bachao Andolan and another, court negated the argument. Court did not consider the argument that in case of land acquisition, the plea of deprivation of right to livelihood under 21 is sustainable. So, according to 2011 ka judgment, the Supreme Court is stating the land acquisition does not amount to deprivation or violation of Article 21, right to livelihood, which is provided under Article 21. 1986 में क्या बोला कि भाई लैंड फॉर लैंड हो जाए. 2011 में जाकर क्या बोला कि नहीं, अगर लैंड एक्वायर किया जा रहा है तो मतलब ये नहीं कि राइट टू लाइवलीहुड को हम वायलेट कर रहे हैं. दैट कैन नॉट बी कनेक्टेड. Now in 2000, in Narmada Bachao Andolan versus Union of India, please remember it is MP and this is Union of India. The displacement of the tribals and other persons would not per se result in violation of their fundamental or other rights. The effect is to see that on their rehabilitation at new location, they are better off than they were. So, following the judgment of 1986, Supreme Court over here in Narmada Bachao Andolan versus Union of India simply stated, not in every case whereby tribals and other persons have been displaced can claim that there was an infringement or violation of fundamental rights or any other rights for that matter. But what is required to be seen that they have been rehabilitated. Land for land ho raha hai. They have been rehabilitated to a new location with better facilities. ठीक है. ट्राइबल लोगों को क्या फैसिलिटीज होती है? कुछ नहीं होती है. सो अगर आप डिस्प्लेस कर रहे हो ट्राइबल पर्सन को, आपको उधर कहीं और कुछ डेवलपमेंट करना है, गो है, बट यू नीड टू रिहैबिलिटेट टू अ बेटर प्लेस. फाइन. मूविंग अहेड, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. 1995 Jagir Ram and others versus Union of India and others, 1995 judgment. Please remember the case name. Since the acquisition is only for defense purposes, the allotment of alternative site would create innumerable complications, and that allotment of alternative site depends upon the purpose of acquisition as well. Over here, Supreme Court has stated, agar acquisition only for defense purposes ho raha hai, in that scenario, there cannot be any rehabilitation. Why? Because if we go ahead with allotment of alternative plots, complications बढ़ती चली जाएंगी. लंबा प्रोसेस होता है ना. इट इज नॉट अ वेरी स्मॉल प्रोसेस कि मैंने यहाँ कर लिया, आपको दूसरा घर दे दिया. वहां पर बिल्डिंग बनानी पड़ेगी, सबके एप्लीकेशंस देखने पड़ेंगे, जज करना पड़ेगा कौन सा किसको प्लॉट देना है. किसी के पास 4 BHK, किसी के पास 1 BHK, किसी के पास 1 BK. अकॉर्डिंगली थिंग्स हैव टू बी जज्ड. और ले किसके लिए? डिफेंस पर्पस के लिए, which is the national purpose, right? So please remember, though we started with the policy कि land for land होना चाहिए. अगर land ले रहे हो, go ahead with rehabilitation. Somehow we stated in 2011 कि that is not a mere requirement. Every time the person cannot claim my right to livelihood has been infringed. That cannot be the scenario. And in 1995 itself it was stated, for defense purposes, the theory of rehabilitation won't apply. Fine? Understood? Please remember all the judgments. सारे ही आपको ये जजमेंट्स के नाम याद रखने ही पड़ेंगे कहीं ना कहीं. एक बार आप चाहो तो नहीं, कोई नहीं चाहो, सारे याद करना. Now moving ahead with the court's opinion. So court, after considering these precedents, stated there has been a shift from the theory of land for land to acquisition of land does not violate any constitutional fundamental right of the displaced persons. Rightly said, 2011 में बिल्कुल ही theory change कर दी. However, they are entitled to resettlement and rehabilitation as per the policy framed for the oustees of the project concerned. Very important. But if there is some resettlement and rehabilitation which is provided by the state policy, then that is required to be followed. For example, the policy framed was not regarding resettlement or rehabilitation but giving a monetary compensation. Can the person claim over here कि नहीं, monetary compensation should not be given? The policy is erroneous. This policy is violative of fundamental right. No, that cannot be stated. Why? Because over here, in our present case, Supreme Court has stated what is required to be followed is the policy. What state policy states, that is required to be followed. Nobody can, the displaced persons cannot say, these oustees cannot claim infringement of any of their fundamental right or any of their rights. And secondly, land for land, मतलब every time rehabilitation is the only option is not the thing which is taken into consideration now. Are we clear? Very very important thing. Please remember, कल अगर आपके पास ऐसा कोई फैक्ट्स आता है जहां पर लैंड के बदले मॉनेटरी कॉम्पनसेशन दी अकॉर्डिंग टू दी स्टेट पॉलिसी, इट इज वैलिड. ठीक है, प्लीज रिमेंबर द जजमेंट 2011 का एमपी वर्सेस नर्मदा बचाओ आंदोलन वाला. मूविंग इट वेल, अब नाउ गोइंग अहेड एंड बैक टू द mandatory injunction for that matter, and now the court is analyzing the same. Well, it may be argued, and quite legitimately and quite correctly, that the term obligation in section 39 may not always be mutual. Right? जरूरी नहीं है कि जो obligation की बात की गई है वो mutual हो. That is, the plaintiff who is claiming something is also required to do some act, and against the person that is defended is also required to do some act. The obligation is not always mutual. However, it all depends on the individual facts of each case, right? But we cannot simply say that while going ahead and claiming mandatory injunction, it is always and always a duty upon the shoulders of the defendant to do a act. Rather, there are times when the obligation is also upon the plaintiff first. Plaintiff, you are required to do your act first, and then only the obligation will pass upon to the shoulders of the defendant, right? जैसे कि आज हमारे इस केस में कहीं ना कहीं म्यूचुअल ऑब्लिगेशन है कि नहीं. पॉलिसी के अंदर कहा गया है, बिल्कुल कहा गया है कि रीसेटलमेंट किया जाएगा, ऑल्टरनेटिव प्लॉट्स दिए जाएंगे ऑन अ सिंगल कंडीशन, on a very single condition, that please go ahead and file a proper application. Give 10% of the earnest amount. If you do it, we'll go ahead and give you an alternative plots. अभी जहां तक हमने फैक्ट्स पढ़े, समझ में आ रही है चीज. म्यूचुअल ऑब्लिगेशन इज नॉट समथिंग which is always under section 39, but it is something which depends upon the facts and obligation of each case. Now, how it will be depend? When the scheme in question specifically provides that an oustee shall file an application in a specified format with the deposit of a requisite amount towards earnest money, then it is the part of the obligation on the part of the oustee to do so before he calls upon the state to allot the plot in accordance with the terms of the scheme. Are we clear? Over here, जब पॉलिसी कह रही है कि भाई पहले आप प्लेंटिफ outstees the displaced persons, file an application, pay the honest amount, and then only the obligation will pass upon the shoulder. There is no denial by the Supreme Court that the state has no obligation on their shoulders to give the alternative plots. But these alternative plots cannot be given in just हवा में कि भाई क्योंकि हमने निकाला है 10 लोगों को, उनके घरों से 10 लोगों को हम ऑल्टरनेटिव प्लॉट्स दे. What respondents are claiming is, give us the plots. What you have promised, give that. They are not in their own obligation giving the exact details of the plots they actually had. Right? Moving it. Though, अब over here, this is next issue which has been dealt. इतना ज़्यादा डेप्थ नहीं था, बस एक सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यहाँ पर एक पैराग्राफ दिया. Though there is no explanation. अभी यहाँ तक का ना केस कंप्लीट हो गया. ठीक है, कंप्लीट हो गया केस कि देयर इज अ म्यूचुअल ऑब्लिगेशन ऑन द पार्ट ऑफ द प्लेंटिफ एंड रिस्पोंडेंट, दैट इज द appellant and the respondents over here. अब going ahead with the last paragraph, which is a kind of, which is not so related, but still I've included. Though there is no explanation worth, name why it took 14 to 20 years for the plaintiffs to institute their respective suits for mandatory injunction. By no stretch of imagination it can be said that the case on hand is one of recurring cause of action so as to bring the suit within the period of limitation. सुप्रीम कोर्ट यहाँ पर जब एंड कर रहा है अपना, तो एक एनालाइज कर रहा है कि भाई ये जो केस था आपका, ये कब का केस है. दिस इज द केस ऑफ अराउंड जब 1992 पॉलिसी अप्लाई हो रही है, तो अराउंड वहीं का केस है. द रिस्पोंडेंट्स ओवर हियर हैड क्लेम्ड फॉर द मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन एट अ वेरी लेटर स्टेज. मतलब after 14 to 20 years from the acquisition of land, now they are instituting the suit for claiming the alternative plots, and they are seeking mandatory injunction on the part of the state. Supreme Court is stating कि 14 to 20 years is a very long duration. And the cause of action over here is not something जो कि रिकरिंग हो रहा है, मतलब बार बार मिल रहा है. 3 years एक बार मिला, जैसे आपका कोई भी आप डिफॉल्ट हुआ तो 3 years स्टार्ट होता है मैंडेटरी इंजंक्शन के लिए. अगर किसी को फाइल करना है फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ डिफॉल्ट और फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ ब्रीच ऑफ एन ऑब्लिगेशन or from the date when the assumption of breach of obligation arises in the mind of the person, they are required to file the suit within 3 years. Understood? So within 3 years, the suit has to be filed. This 3 years is not a recurring process कि जैसे 3 साल खत्म होगा फिर से 3 साल मिल जाएगा, 3 साल मिल जाएगा, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. Supreme Court over here stating the respondents did not bother to give the explanation of such a long delay, which is the original plaintiffs, the outseas, the displaced persons have not given explanation why they have took 14 to 20 years for filing. Up, in such circumstance, suit should have been dismissed per se, where there is a bar of period of limitation, which can be analyzed from the bare provision itself. तो ऐसा सूट तो पर से मतलब फ्रॉम द फेस ऑफ इट बाहर हो जाना चाहिए, डिसमिस हो जाना चाहिए. However, since we, matlab Supreme Court is inclined to give benefits to the persons who are very helpless, they have no place to go, they have no residential place to go, hence not considering that issue. Lower courts have not considered, even the Supreme Court is stating we are also not considering this issue. No, this is one of the issues jahan par what kind of whenever there is a period of limitation or bar on the period of limitation, what kind of issue is it? It's a question of law firstly, and what kind of issue it is. I have told you many a times. So what kind of question of law is it? Preliminary question of law. Preliminary question of law. I have told you now. So any question which is regarding jurisdiction or time bar ka, that are preliminary. जहां पर the Supreme Court, the courts, not Supreme Court, the courts are required to deal those cases first and then move ahead with the other facts. But over here, though Section 3 of the Limitation Act simply states it is not a duty upon the shoulders of the defendant to claim it. Defendant हर वक्त कोर्ट को नहीं याद दिलाएगा कि कोर्ट देखिए यहाँ पर पीरियड ऑफ लिमिटेशन बाहर है, बाहर हो गया लिमिटेशन पीरियड का. नहीं, it is also the duty upon the shoulders of the court. ये mandatory duty है upon the shoulders of the court कि वो देखे कि अगर cause of action इतने समय का था, within that period of limitation the suit has not been filed, it is completely barred until unless there are sufficient reasons for the same, until unless it falls under any of the explanations or exceptions. Other than that it is barred. But क्योंकि पहले से इस चीज को कंसिडर नहीं किया, सुप्रीम कोर्ट कह रहा है मैं भी कंसिडर नहीं कर रहा हूँ, बिकॉज ऑफ द सिंपल रीजन सुप्रीम कोर्ट चाह रहा है बेनिफिट देना. दिस इज अ एक्सेप्शन, ठीक है. दिस इज नॉट विच इज जनरली फॉलोड. कोर्ट इमोशनली ड्रिवन नहीं होता है. आई टोल्ड यू कोर्ट इज नॉट इमोशनली ड्रिवन. कोर्ट इज ड्रिवन बाय द एविडेंसेस, बाय द लॉ. वो कितना भी सोच रहे कि नो दिस पार्टी इज करेक्ट, द अदर पार्टी इज रॉन्ग, बट इफ देयर आर नो एविडेंस टू सपोर्ट दैट पार्टी हु इज रॉन्ग, द कोर्ट cannot convict that person. Right? So taking that, Supreme Court has not considered this issue. मैंने ये इसलिए बताया in case you are reading the judgment, so you will get confused कि मैम ने तो इस बारे में बात नहीं की, इसलिए मैंने इस बारे में भी बात कर ली. Moving ahead. Respondents to file, over here the judgment is respondent to file appropriate online application for deposit of the requisite amount in accordance with the policy of 2016. Over here they stated 1992 की पॉलिसी नहीं, 2016 की पॉलिसी के अकॉर्डिंगली जो भी ऑनलाइन एप्लीकेशन 1992 में तो होगी भी नहीं आप, क्योंकि ऑनलाइन एप्लीकेशन का आपके पास है ऐसा राइट, गो अहेड एंड फाइल दैट एप्लीकेशन विद इन द पीरियड स्पेसिफाइड, वॉट एवर पीरियड हैज बीन स्पेसिफाइड, अकॉर्डिंगली पे द अमाउंट एंड फाइल द ऑनलाइन एप्लीकेशन, एंड द अपील इज देयर बाय डिस्पोज्ड. सो नाउ गोइंग अहेड विद द इशू, whether the relief of mandatory injunction is available to the respondent, write your answers. Is the relief of mandatory injunctions available in this case to the respondent, yes or no? Y or N? And Sajal, till then you can go ahead and look at the precedents. ठीक है, अब अपने इसके साथ रेशियो डिसेंडाई भी बताएं. What is the reason for the same? Why are you saying yes or no? Very good, Ishita. Very good. In a single line, because there is a mutual obligation. And the obligation first. So, firstly, no. The mandatory injunction is not a relief available to the respondent because of the simple reason of the mutual obligation. The obligation first lies on the part of the plaintiff who is claiming. That is to file a proper application and submit the earnest amount. And then only the obligation will go ahead to the on the shoulders of the state. 2011 case, ठीक है. Supreme Court negated the argument. So if there is an individual who is a displaced person who is stating that because of the land being acquired by the state, my right to livelihood has been infringed. The Supreme Court simply over here has negated it. Not has stated this cannot be claimed. Are we clear? So in any case, right to livelihood would not be infringed because of the simple reason the land has been acquired by the government. Can the land be acquired by the private authorities? Yes, tell me. We have moved from land to land to the land acquisition cannot be an infringement of fundamental rights. Look at over here. Yes. From land to acquisition of land does not violate any constitutional fundamental right. Okay? Please make sure everyone remember this. Land to not violating constitutional fundamental right. Hanji, is private individual going ahead and acquiring a land? Will this case law will be still applicable? Or no, थोड़ा complicated हो जाएगा. Will the fundamental rights not being violated? Will not the fundamental rights be violated? Yes. Can the private individual can also go ahead and acquire the land, still not violating the fundamental rights of the displaced person? जल्दी रिप्लाई दो आप लोग, वरना मैं तो क्लास एक्सटेंड कर दूंगी. And for tomorrow, please, just a reminder. अच्छा, if the private entity, private individual, not the government, is acquiring the land of another private individual, will that amount to any way violation of any of the fundamental rights? Yes or no? Okay, now write the answer. For tomorrow, there will be 2 hours class. I'll be starting at 5 p.m. I'll be starting at 5.1. Okay, I won't be waiting for anybody. I won't be repeating the facts. I won't be repeating anything in my class. So I want your full concentration. आप लोग को सच में समझ में आ गया था ना मैंने क्या बोला? मैं हिंदी में बता देती हूँ. इन केस अगर मैं प्राइवेट इंडिविजुअल जाके अपने नेबर की प्रॉपर्टी को कब्जा कर लूं, एक्वायर कर लूं, तो क्या मैंने उसके फंडामेंटल राइट का या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट का ब्रीच नहीं किया है? क्योंकि मैंने मैम फंडामेंटल राइट आपने वर्ड यूज किया था इसलिए हम लोग ने नो लिख दिया. ये मुझे नहीं सुनना है. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल या फंडामेंटल राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी का मैंने ब्रीच नहीं किया है? यस और नो? यस. थैंक यू सो मच. ठीक है. So this case is particularly applicable to government authorities. If there is a private individual stating the same, acquiring the land, the case, this precedence over here, land to land, the violation of the fundamental right or any of the rights is not over there. That is not the scenario. Understood? The individuals, the private individuals, entities have no such authority under the law. Fine. I hope the case is clear. Very important case that I talked about various points upon the mandatory injunction. Not only dealing with the mandatory injunction, it has also talked upon what should be the remedy while any authority is acquiring anybody's land. Fine. And thank you so much. Please remember the precedents. All the precedents are important in this case. Please remember today's case. And with this, I'll end the session for today. Please remember the meaning of mandatory injunction, the provision number, and what all conditions have been laid down. Somebody asked me to go ahead with the conditions, so let me just brief it about the conditions. First thing, kahan ki conditions? Over here. First, there must be an obligation on the part of defendant. अगर कोई obligation नहीं है defendant के shoulder पे, तो कैसा mandatory injunction? ठीक है? Secondly, that obligation is something जिसका breach या तो हो चुका है या तो होने वाला है. Has already occurred the breach or reasonably apprehended to occur. Thirdly, it is necessary on the part of the shoulder. हाँ टेस्ट, जल्दी जल्दी बोला करो। मैं जा रही हूँ टेस्ट करने, टेस्ट टेस्ट टेस्ट, सो सॉरी। फाइन। फर्स्ट टेस्ट इज वेरी सिंपल। यहाँ पर रेशियो डिसेंडाई को एक जनरल रूल की तरीके बोला गया और कहा गया इफ रीजंस वर नॉट देयर इन द केस देन द केस माइट हैव बीन डिसाइडेड अदरवाइज। Understood? Reasons are the backing of a decision. In Halsbury test, same. It is a general rule and it has been stated the part of the judgment which is relevant and applicable is a binding feature on the other courts, on the inferior courts, is the ratio descendant. Fine. Which is an authoritative element. So the judgment जिसका authoritative element हो, जो main decision हो, जो main reason हो, जो कि सब courts पे applicable है, that is what ratio descendi is. And Goodhart has simply stated the reason of a decision is a ratio descendi, जो कि general वो है definition. Secondly, they have also stated there is not always a requirement that the reason should be somehow in compliance with the decision. There might be a thing whereby decision might be something else and the reasons might be something else. तो ऐसा कुछ कहा है। अब आई हैव नॉट सीन एनी जजमेंट, तो बिल्कुल ही इरेशनल हो जाएगा कि रीजंस मैं दे रही हूँ यस के लिए और डिसीजन मेरा नो हो गया। करेक्ट? तो आई डोंट अग्री विद गुडहार्ट्स टेस्ट, बट दीज आर द थ्री टेस्ट व्हिच वर अप्लाइड, व्हिच वर स्टेटेड बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट, referred by the Supreme Court, and that is why it becomes very important. Thank you so much. With this, I'll end the session for today. If you have any doubt, please come to me. I'll correct it.
Enhance legal skills. Unlock success with Rostrum Legal.